Begin today's development review committee for the city of Fairhope. Today is March 10th, and we are reviewing cases that will appear on the April 6th, 2020 City of Fairhope Planning Commission. And we have some absences today, so I will do a great deal of talking. But for anyone watching or any citizens who may come in and attend the meeting, this is not a public meeting of any elected body or any appointed body. This is not a council meeting. This is not a planning commission meeting. This is a meeting between staff and applicants for various items on the planning commission agenda, but we record this meeting and make it available so that way any citizens who are interested in what is being considered by the planning commission, they have advance notice of what will be considered at the April 6th planning commission meeting. So we'll begin with a subdivision case. And that is case number SD 19.41. And Mr. Tim Lawley is with us today. And Tim, you're welcome to come join us at the table. This is a request. The developer is the Retirement Systems of Alabama, and the development is entitled Watershed West and is a 10-lot subdivision. It's located on the south side of County Road 34 between Point Clear Court and Pavner Place. And Mike Jeffries is not able to be with us at the meeting today, but what I'll try to do is I'll try to answer your questions as best as possible, and then I'll take notes and give to Mike for follow-up purposes.
Okay.
So take it away, Tim.
All right. Well, let me start with, first there was a comment, and I'm assuming it came from Eric, on maybe the hydric soils and potential need for a wetland delineation.
Or determination.
Yes. I went out to the site yesterday,
Okay.
and I took these pictures. So this is standing, the hydric soils will be at the south end of the site that you're seeing on the map. This is standing south of the site. What you're looking at here, that fence is the south property line of the site, and there are wetlands south of the site. They're about 75 to 100 feet away.
Okay.
And so basically, I'm standing on the edge of where you would see wetland vegetation, looking back towards the site, taking pictures. So that's the first picture. That's back towards the site. And then the next pictures are from inside the site, looking back towards that fence. And as you can see, it's grass, pine trees, and oak trees. So there's nothing there that would constitute any type of wetland vegetation or the hydrology.
Okay.
And you can even see here the soils are pretty much the same.
Sure.
So
If you would, I guess, in responding to the comment that was in the staff report, just email or send something back, just the site was investigated, there are no wetlands present. But I agree, I went out and kind of looked at the site too. And
Perfect. I just didn't
it
wanna-
doesn't have, no, it's good.
Let's see. The other question I had was Buford, what I talked to you about yesterday, the note, and I'll have to give me just a second, I can find that comment. I believe it was the design standards. Regarding the labeling of the common areas as a public access easement on the plat. That's something that we've never come across or been asked to do, and it concerns me. Labeling a common area as a public access easement would allow anyone from the public to come in and use a private community pool or a private community clubhouse or even playground. We would have no issue with saying a community access easement or pedestrian easement. The term public just doesn't seem like the appropriate term for that, in my opinion.
And Tim, I'm going to read for you right out of the subregs how it reads.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from Article 5. This is from Article 5, Section D, subsection 7. And this note is under green space maintenance.
Right.
And it says, all required green space shall be indicated on the recorded plat as a public access and use easement. The plat must also have a note that the property is not dedicated to the city of Fairhope, et cetera, et cetera. So that is how it reads right out of the subdivision regulations. And I guess what I can do is see if fellow staff has any comment on that on prior history. Now I think it's labeled here as green space and not all common space, if I'm splitting hairs a little bit,
Right.
because this is under the green space maintenance section in the planning design standards.
Right. Well, and I see the point you're getting at, and it would be, as you well know, the green space kind of is not a regular, it wraps around the edges of ponds and all that, so it would be very hard to describe or say, hey, here's a green space easement that's a public access easement. It's something we've never done in the 15 years I've been doing this. I've never been asked to put that. Now, we have been asked to put the second part of that note on the plat that says
Sure.
this is not the maintenance responsibility of the city of Fairhope, but the first part of that note, I'll be honest, I've never even read that note, the subdivision regs. It may have been there for the past 15 years. I have no idea.
And fellow staff, correct me if I misstate this, but I think the main issue and the main point of having that, and maybe this part of the subdivision regulations is not worded extremely well. I think the main point is that so whenever you have a public way that someone can traverse it via sidewalk, so that way a member of the public, a member of the public can walk on the sidewalk and get through the area.
Right.
So if we have that reflected in where necessary for pedestrian easement purposes, I think that'll be satisfactory.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll,
the other thing you need to keep in mind, and I think Tim is correct, ADA requirements are that public right-of-ways, which are owned by municipal governments or county governments, are required to be ADA accessible. If it is private, it does not require that, because we ran into that in the first phase of Battles Trace.
Okay.
So if you label it as public, it might have an issue. That may come up about ADA compliance with the sidewalks, which on a privately owned road and right-of-way, those requirements don't apply.
right. And kind of to his same point, obviously the resubmittal, the current submittal we're looking at now is a subdivision using the county unzoned, and the typical process would be a public right-of-way for that. If the owner so choose to make that a private right-of-way, would that require a waiver, or how would that be handled through the subdivision regulations?
That's a very good question.
And we kind of had this internal
Because,
discussion, and,
yeah.
and the approval, the intent is that we're going to submit this, and we're designing it and scoping it as a public right-of-way. This body nor this city can force the county commission to do a doggone thing, okay? So with that said, I don't, and we get to final plat, and the owner's dedication, the right-of-ways are hereby dedicated to the public, okay? Now, a public dedication is one thing. A public acceptance is another act in itself. We can't control that part, but I think that, the honesty factor is that if the intent is for it to be public, means that the developer is going to submit a request for dedication and acceptance to the county commission as part of the completion of this subdivision.
Right. Well, regardless whether it's public or private, we'll have to get approval from the county, as this falls in their
Yes.
zoning.
And I'd see no reason why the county wouldn't accept the roads as a public road upon the warranty and everything else that they require, so.
I guess that the question I was asking, though, is if the owner wished for this to be a private right-of-way, would that require a waiver with the submittal? If we said, if when I resubmitted you this plat, it said private right-of-way instead of public right-of-way?
Yes, because I think our subdivision regulation says, except for TR districts, there is no private right-of-ways approved.
Because we were trying to stay away from any waivers on this project at this time.
I think you're committed to a public right-of-way.
Okay.
And just since we're on right-of-way, did we resolve the confusion about 40-foot versus 50 and all that?
Yes, the plans I have and printed out are 50 foot,
Okay.
and they scale 50 foot.
We
so-
may been looking at earlier versions.
Yeah,
so-
like I say, I don't know if there's a possibility of that, or there's a possibility that we could have inadvertently resubmitted the plans prior to the revisions.
And what it looked like, Tim, and there's nothing nefarious here. I'm pretty sure it's just a routine edit. I think the text edits were made, and then some of the detailing didn't catch up with the text edits, and that was just reflected on the actual paper copy we had.
Right, and we'll handle all that. And when y'all were saying, were y'all scaling off the plans or the actual plat itself?
Uh,
I think I was going off a set of plans.
Plans.
Yeah.
And Tim, and did we resolve sidewalks on both sides of the road?
Yes,
Okay.
that's, we're gonna propose them on both sides of the road if that's what the regulations say that we.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went back and it's not just the lot size, it's side of the road. It says for that classification of road, both sides. So
Okay.
even though you're gonna have a sidewalk to nowhere on one side if this goes forward. Drainage is fine, nothing's changed there. We've talked about the private road. You know, I just think you gotta be forthright and straightforward with that we're going in this is public right of way. Okay.
I guess while I'm here, I would like to discuss one other thing. There was a comment about Lot 10 being 100-foot wide at the setback. And I measured it, it's 90-something and some change.
Okay.
Do y'all have any problem with just making it the setback further back into the lot? More than the required 30 feet to get to that 100-foot spot?
Well, the way the subdivision regulations read is that, is that you have the lot width at the setback line. And so if the lot is otherwise correct, if proper lot size, and this is not a zoning situation for lot coverage, but if the lot is otherwise acceptable and meets all the standards, then I don't think that would be an issue.
Yeah, because setback's a minimum.
Yeah.
You
that's-
can
that
have a
was
greater
my take
setback
on it
than
as
the
well.
minimum.
Basically,
So-
what I'm looking at doing is moving it from a 30 to a 55, which it's this lot right, I don't know if y'all can see it right here, that
Right.
opens up kind of funny, and basically it's gonna push it almost back right there where that little, it's gonna push it back to like right there is where the setback will
Okay.
be. So it'll just move from there to there, and then that'll get it to the 100-foot width at that point.
And Tim, forgive me, because I'm going by memory here, because didn't review it. I think the standard Baldwin County setbacks are 40 feet front for an unzoned piece of property, but again,
I think they're 30.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
Well, the advantage here, though, is that this one has, sometimes their lot size and lot requirements vary according to whether they have both public water and public sewer available too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think the bare bones requirement they have is a 40-foot front setback if it is the very basic subdivision. But yeah, if the lot is otherwise correct, that should be fine.
Yeah, and that's basically what we went with is the county setbacks. I believe it's 30 on the front and rear and 10 on the sides.
Okay.
Is their standard for unzoned. property.
Tim, my only comment would be, please note that change in setback in the site data table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot 10 has a,
Right,
Yes.
we'll just put 30-foot setback or say with exception of lot 10 or
Yeah.
something like that. It'll be noted on the lot. It'll probably have where all the other ones will say 30-foot, it'll say 55-foot or whatever it is that we move it to. I believe it was 55 is what I had to put it at.
Okay.
I was playing around with it yesterday.
Yeah, because if you make it more conservative than the requirement,
I think that's all that I have, unless y'all have any other questions.
I think that's it, Tim.
Okay.
So staff, anything else for Mr. Lawley while we have his attention? All right. Tim,
guys.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You made it on time.
Yep. Got to get out of another meeting early.
Very good. Thank you, Tim. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, we'll move on to our next case, and this is a minor subdivision, and Mr. David Schumer is joining us. The case number SD 20.14, and this is a request by Rodney and Melissa Jemison, and this is J&J Farm subdivision. It's a two-lot minor subdivision, and this is 3.69 acres, north side of Champion Road, just west of Old Pierce Road in the southern portion of the Fairhope planning jurisdiction. And David Carla could not be with us here today, and so, but what we'll do is we'll try to answer your questions as best we can and then transcribe notes over there. But it looks like she had 3 pretty routine comments.
Yeah, and this one was one I was trying to get it done. You know, I didn't realize y'all were, open for Mardi Gras. And being in Mobile.
We are open for business.
I was leaving town for Mardi Gras, so I was trying to get everything buttoned up. I believe the owners are gonna try to get a sidewalk waiver.
Okay.
I guess that's another application. I mean, this is kinda way out.
Sure.
I mean, I can't imagine when sidewalks are gonna be put in anywhere
Yeah.
near this.
And David, that is for the minor, especially minor subdivisions that are a couple miles from town that are farther into the planning jurisdiction. That's a fairly routine request.
Okay.
Just basically follow the criteria for waiver request in the subdivision regulations, and basically just put it into a letter form and send it to Carla's attention, please.
Okay, email or can I email it, or do we got to bring it as a fee
You're welcome.
associated?
You're welcome to email it and then let a hard copy follow in the mail.
Okay, that's fine, or I'll send it to somebody over here to deliver it. But I think that one, that was the main gist. This is I think they're doing it as a family subdivision. It's been submitted to
Sure.
the county,
Yeah.
but I believe they're doing it as a family division, so it should be accepted from any of the regulations, even though
Right.
it meets all of their regulations.
And it's probably here in the file, and I didn't have time to go through it, didn't have time to go through it, but most likely, the county has probably granted that exemption, so therefore, the only steps they have to go through is through the minor subdivision process through Fairhope.
Yeah, and I know the county is a little bit overwhelmed right now, so they.
Sure, exactly,
It may be
exactly.
a little bit of time.
And Emily, if I can ask Miss Emily Boyette real quick, what would be our deadline to get any waivers in for advertisement purposes?
Whatever the response date is.
Okay, okay.
Is it like the 16th or?
I think it is. I think it's Monday.
Yes, so, yeah, so
Okay.
our due date for responses to this one is 9 a.m. on Monday, the 16th.
Okay.
So, yeah, so in addition to these minor edits, include that request for waiver.
The minor edits was probably my brain on vacation for Mardi Gras.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, any other questions for staff while you have us here, David?
No, are there any questions for me?
And again, sorry Carla couldn't be with us here today, but I think we're good to go, David. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I got the next
He's the
one
next
too.
one.
Oh, you got the next one. Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
Twofer.
I'm sorry.
All right.
All right, so the
Similar
next,
situation.
so SD 20.15, this is Miss Samara Wally's case. I'll let Samara take over.
Thank you, Buford. Again, this is SD 20.15, public hearing to consider the request of Ronald Garwish and Dina Stratton for plat approval of the Summit, a 4-lot minor subdivision. The property is approximately 19.35 acres and is located on the east side of Young Street across from Kirkman Lane. I just had 3 comments. One of them was that we would require wetland delineation and wetland buffers. The second comment was that there is an extension from the proposed Lot 4 to Ingleside Drive. We needed more information. Is it an access easement? Is it improved or unimproved? How would, they enter and exit that lot?
It is just, the surveyor was supposed to send me a copy of the deed. I thought I had it, and I thought she was going to submit. It's just part of the lot. It's just how the lot was cut up a long time ago. For some reason, they left that strip of access. I don't think there's ever any intent for it to be used.
They thought they needed it, so they platted it that way.
Yeah,
Well,
they-
David,
Possibly.
My question is that you have that flag post that runs to Ingleside.
Yeah.
But there is a landlocked parcel between your client's property and Ingleside. And I was wondering, is there an easement on that needs to be shown on the plat that allows that landlocked parcel to have access from a public road? That was just my.
Yeah, according to the surveyor, and I haven't seen the copy of the deed the deed that they used to go out there and locate the boundary. It's just whoever cut that piece out, however long ago,
Let that
left
strip
it,
there.
that strip. I don't think the deed shows any easements, and I'll confirm that, and
Right.
we'll get you a copy of the deed. I was gonna email it. But according to the surveyor, it's just somebody, for some reason, when they split, however it was, way back when, wanted, it's not worth any, you can't do anything on it. If I were to buy that southern lot, I would try to either sell it or convey it to whoever's on
Right.
that side, just because it doesn't, but to do that as part of this would bring that party into the subdivision and make it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, but Samara pointed out wisely, just out of an abundance of caution, just in case there wasn't some type of access easement across proposed Lot 4 in favor of this lot or this lot, out of an abundance of caution, we check things like that.
Yeah, no, I don't, it looked weird for me, and when I got it zoomed in, if you go into the GIS, that's the county's mapping, that's what it shows.
Yeah, on the county mapping, it actually labels it as an access lane at 16.5 feet wide. Is
Okay.
how there's a
little
title
label
block
on
and
it.
it's called, yeah, because there's actually two landlocked lots, but one of them doesn't touch the access lane. It's that one directly to the east that does.
Yeah, I mean, I can label it to match the county, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's an official.
I don't either. I was just pulling it up now on their site. It's got it labeled as an access
Yeah.
lane.
And and usually the surveyor, goes by the deeds and they don't do like a title search, but they go by the deed, and usually the deed will have any kind of restrictions or anything on there, and they didn't see anything, otherwise it would have been added to the drawing as part of it.
Well, and David,
But we'll-
you can appreciate this too, that way, at least here at the city staff level, we know that we'll have in the operating record of the city in this file that a vetting process did occur
Yeah.
should there be some kind of future complaint or claim against the newly created lots, because you never know.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, and it is weird, almost worthless. I mean, you have all that frontage on Young Street, what is the point?
Yeah, I'm trying
Yeah.
to get all
Yeah.
that.
I don't know.
And 16 is tight.
It's an anomaly.
The wetlands, I brought up the wetlands during the process. Of course, it was right before submittal, and there wasn't time to get somebody out there. And they said that they were going to request, since it only affects that north lot, if that could be burdened on whoever purchases before development of that lot. And I understand the 30-foot buffer and the signs and all of that. And I don't know if it was a time thing or if they just didn't want to do
Yeah.
it, but yeah. And then if you look at the GIS mapping for the county, that shows wetlands on the north side of the property line out to Young Street, which is, a ballpark at best from the 50s or whenever they did the NWI maps. But I don't know if that's something that could be burdened, since it only affects that one property.
From our standpoint, or from my standpoint, and our office is the one that enforces the wetland ordinance, I'd like to have it done now so that it's documented that it's there, because that may not be built for 15 years. It could get missed, when we're doing a review.
Understand.
So I'd like to go on ahead and let's get it done now. The only other question I had, I'm actually gonna let you finish, I don't know. I had one other comment, but I'll
Yeah,
let you go through this.
I think it actually is your comment,
Yeah.
Eric, and it's about the flood study. So I'll let you speak to that.
There's a swath of alluvial soils that go through there, and they're not technically a hydric soil, but that is indicative of a water channel. When you see creek beds and you see drainage areas, typically you'll see alluvial soils. We've got a lot of drainage ditches, we've got a lot of, kind of unofficial creek beds, especially in that part of town, that in rainstorms convey a lot of water. I'd like to have some kind of analysis done of the drainage in there, because we've got others in town that are creek beds that are not on the flood maps, but during the heavy rains, they flood. So I want to make sure that we're accounting for any kind of, or have analyzed any kind of water flow that we have, because it cuts pretty much the overall site. If I remember correctly, it kind of cuts it down the middle.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
we'd like to have some detailed flood study, or a little more detailed look at the drainage in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at the drainage.
Yeah.
Flood study, I think, is out of my.
Well, and it's not a flood zone, so it
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's-
technically be,
yeah.
but we do need to review
Just
the
how much
overall
water.
how much water that thing conveys.
That I can generate
Because that should
something on
affect
end.
some setbacks, or it could be taken into account with setbacks, and how far back off of any water course or potential water course we've got with those properties.
Yeah, like a ephemeral stream or something.
Yeah, and we have a lot of those going around, so we just want to make sure that we're taking that into account.
And David, I looked at the topo, I turned on the topo layer in the county map viewer, and if I'm going by memory, but I think they're part of the draw that goes through there, some of it's about 10 or 12 feet deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing as well with the acreage. I mean, these lots are 4 to 5 acres.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can work, it wasn't in a flood zone, so it didn't hit my radar
Yeah.
and I'm not as familiar with any of the drainage creek streams in the area.
And it looks like your southernmost lot is the one that's most impacted by that draw through there. And generally, if you read our subdivision regulations, you kind of find the center line of that draw, and then there's actually a channel protection buffer that you put in there that says, hey, when you're gonna develop this lot, here's where you can, here's where you can't. You stay out of the waterway.
Yeah.
And I think we probably want you to kind of show that and delineate that so that the potential buyers and future developers know, hey, I can build in the uplands, but I gotta stay out of these bottoms. Now you and I, that's common sense, but that doesn't always apply in Fairhope. They like to build things in holes, and then they yell at me because the water runs toward the hole.
Oh, it's not just Fairhope.
Well, and just looking at the contours, the high end on the north side, just based on the county, you're at 114 feet. Bottom of that draw is at 94 feet.
Yeah.
So it's a 20-foot drop in elevation.
Oh, wow, steeper than I thought.
Yeah. So just take a look at the drainage through there, because that happens a lot. Like ephemeral stream's a good term to use, because we do have a lot of those unofficial creek beds and ephemeral streams all over the
Yeah,
place.
just have water when it seasonally
That's
or
it.
after rain events.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And David, this wasn't a comment, but it was one of those things, I know the planning commission, it's very rare that there's almost a 20-acre parcel of property in town, for all practical purposes, that has not been divided in the last 50 years. But since these resulting lots are around 4 to 5 acres each, would your client have any issue of a note added that any further re-subdivision may or shall instigate a major subdivision review? Because the concern is I do a minor and get 4 lots.
Yeah.
And then this person turns back around, takes lot 1 and does a minor and gets 4.
Four lots,
And
yeah.
takes 2 and does 4. And the next thing you know, we have a 16-lot major subdivision, and there's been no drainage, there's been no infrastructure and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I half anticipate somebody buying one of these lots with the proximity to Fairhope. The value doesn't go down as much as you divide. So the owners, I think, live in the house,
Okay.
and they're the ones who are just dividing it. They don't need 20 acres for their, 4 or 5 acre, 5 acre. I think theirs is the biggest lot because they wanted to get as many of the oak trees on their lot as possible.
They wanted theirs to reflect what they wanted.
And they just don't need the rest. So I will ask the question. I don't, if it were me, what somebody else has to do when they buy the lot from me, it doesn't, I don't think it's gonna impact the value of the lot. So I wouldn't anticipate it being a problem, but I will ask.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for David?
That's all I have.
All right, David, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on in our next case, SD 20.16, and this is the request for, the developer is Triple C Development, and this is a request for a preliminary plat approval of a re-subdivision of Lot 4 East Fairhope Plaza, a 2-lot subdivision, and a little bit of history on this particular project. This is the last remaining out parcel in front of the Walmart Supercenter store on Highway 181, and the last remaining out parcel. It's in unzoned Baldwin County. It is a bit of an anomaly that it is surrounded by areas within the city limits, but this is in unzoned Baldwin County. And a similar case was submitted 2 years ago in early 2018, and that case did receive preliminary plat approval, but then the developer withdrew it. And now we have a new submission from the same developer again to have a two-lot minor subdivision on the property. However, there's some installation of infrastructure which triggers this into a major subdivision category. So it's a matter of installing the infrastructure and then coming back for a final plat approval. And so we've got Matthew Roberts, we've got Stephanie Groves with Gulf States Engineering with us today. And Matthew, I sent you your review comment checklist very late yesterday. I haven't yet even sent you a cover letter on it. I think a majority of the comments are routine and are pieces of paperwork from last case that just simply need to be modernized and reflect current dates and submitted with this case. But I'll turn it over to you folks and if you get into ask any technical questions.
Okay,
Or,
yeah.
or anything about which you have questions.
So if you're okay with it, I'll just come down the checklist.
You can, I've got a copy right here.
Stephanie and I reviewed
Yes.
it.
Yeah, and I'll follow along.
So a lot of this, as you said, is pretty straightforward. We get a lot of this documentation. But I do have a handful that I've noted and just like some clarification.
Sure, go right ahead.
The memorandum and transmittal for extraterrestrial extraterritorial. Yeah. I knew I was gonna say that. Extraterritorial development. Can you, but that was one thing that I don't think we discussed. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
And that's just simply, that is one of the forms that the county personnel will sign.
Okay.
And then, and I'm happy to email you that document as a standalone document. It's inside the subdivision application, which is about 10 pages, but that's one page out of there.
Okay.
And so I'll give you a follow-up email
Well,
where you
I
have
know
it by
what
yourself.
happened, and I took
Right.
those out once we were having some of those.
Exactly. We had some paper shuffling at time of submission.
That's fine. Like I said, we reviewed it this morning on the way over, so. That's clear on that.
I would like to say I did receive the check, the additional fee.
Oh, good.
So I have that. So that's done as
Good.
well.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank
we like to get paid.
A little clarification on the utility availability letters. Are we under, it's my understanding that we do have, we have water and sewer that by Fairhope now.
Right.
And so since that infrastructure is in
Yeah, so-
place, are we good with not getting that letter?
Yeah, I think it's a safe assumption that we're reviewing plans and profiles there. There's no need to redo that. But when I cross-compared the cases, last time we had a letter from AT&T. So basically just an updated version of that one.
Okay.
And then.
If they want gas, we need.
If there's a desire for gas, contact
Jeremy.
and contact the gas department. And Jeremy is sitting out in the office with our gas department. Jeremy is Penny writing all, or Mike, is Penny writing all the availability letters for all services? Okay. So Matthew, your point of contact would be Penny Hale, and she writes the availability letters.
We do have a gas line that runs in front of all that property.
Yeah. So you've got gas. If the customer wants it, it's there.
Okay, all right. Okay, clear on that. I'm to page 4 now. The minimum finished floor elevations for every lot, obviously, there are buildings on there. Are we okay with just showing what the existing finished floors are for the building?
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
show that?
Show what they are. Show what they are. Again, this is a bit of an oddity because of what's happened and everything like that, but that checks the box and satisfies that part of the subregs.
Okay. Fair enough. Wetland delineation, page 5. We do have an old wetland delineation when they developed the Walmart property. Is that sufficient, or do we need a new? Or am I-
In that case, the area is the same situation Tim had. It may show hydric soils on that lot, but it's been cleared, it's been mowed, there are no wetland-type plants anywhere, you gotta have all 3. So just a determination stating there are no wetlands present will be sufficient on that, because there's nothing out there.
Yeah, because I want to say there may be an easement
Yeah.
on the plat now for that area.
And just show, just make sure you maintain what was originally there on the replat.
Okay. Would we need to add a note? I think we have a note on there already about maintaining the property in that area. I'll double check that up for a note on the plat. Okay. So this was kind of, this one was a big one last time on page 6 as for the Walmart site, getting the engineer of record for that site to sign off or give us an as-built. I'll have to check my records, but I'm pretty sure that I reached out to that engineer, which was Kimley Horn, and they told me they didn't. The engineer on that project doesn't work for them, and they did not retain those records. So that may be somewhat of an issue. Like I said, I will double check,
Okay.
but I'm almost certain that's what we ran into last time.
Well, and I think for this purposes, the as-built that we would anticipate would just be that additional utilities that you're having to put in as part of the improvements.
Oh, okay, well,
Because
no.
theoretically, we should have as-built on the roads and everything, and the drainage that's already was built back in 2008 or whenever.
Right,
So-
and that was a
so
question that we had last
We would
time.
just want an addition to that, hey, we added this water line and put in this fire hydrant at this location, and if you ran gas line, that the gas service comes at this location, and it's a 2-inch or whatever.
So once all the infrastructure is installed, we just give you an as-built plan of true location.
That's correct. Of
Gotcha,
the infrastructure that you're required to install as part of this subdivision.
Okay.
And-
Not what was installed.
Very good, because.
Okay, good.
And Richard, and that may be my fault. I think I may have got a little carried away when we reviewed the case the first time, because, and what I did is I repeated here my same comment last time and basically said, we need a letter from the engineer of record who designed the drainage system of the Walmart site, that what's in place is as built as designed.
Yeah, and y'all got that last time, because we got an updated report.
We got.
From another engineer, but he was an engineer, so.
Right, now I think that was something, that was the engineer before, may have been Burkhart who was doing that before. But they were able to find something, I believe, but I know that my contact with Kimley Horn resulted in almost nothing. So we can double check. I think we also looked too, at that time, because y'all do have, some information from when it was constructed, basically an as-built from that as well, so.
Would that, and I'll ask Emily to jump in here, did that case come through Fairhope circa 2008, or was that strictly a county case at that time?
No, it came through Fairhope.
It came through? Okay, so we have a Fairhope file also. Well, I'll tell you what, Matthew, super simple here. What you furnished last time, if you can just basically give us an updated correspondence submitting it for this case, that'll clean that up.
Okay.
That'll clean that up, and that'll clean that up on that issue right there.
Perfect.
And kind of like we talked about on another case previously, is that if there was ever a question or a claim or some type of complaint filed this, we have all the documents relevant to this case preserved in this file for the operating record of the city.
Sure. I think this would be my last question.
And like basically the traffic study, basically the same thing is, because we got a letter signed and stamped by a PE last time, basically stating that this development did not trigger the requirement for a traffic study. So basically, again, update that to this case for this file. And that's at the bottom of page 7.
Okay. Get up with the client after this.
Yeah, basically just reconciling what we did last time from a document standpoint with this brand-new case. That way the file's up to date.
Sure. Page 8, last one on page 8, the memorandum of transmittal.
That's that same one.
But the one that I gave you that was on a GSE transmittal,
Right.
we still need to get the one on the.
For file purposes,
Okay,
yeah.
understood.
And what I did is I had y'all give that to me, so that way I could take your file and we can start processing
Perfect.
it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Apologies for taking my time, so jot these notes down. I think that was it for us. We're good.
All right, very good, very good. Well,
Stephanie, do you have any
No, I
questions?
think clarified everything.
and Matthew, Stephanie, Jay Whitman couldn't be with us here today. And the items that we talked about on the connect and reconnect with some of the customers out there that we talked about with Curtis Cooper, we're going to reflect that as a condition of approval. So that way we memorialize the city's requirement. We're going to memorialize that in a condition of approval. So just so you know what that is when you see the staff report.
Right, and that's for the once we go to the meeting on April 6th, that's what the recommendation will be.
Yeah, yeah. So what'll happen is on April 6th, you'll get a recommendation. Staff will recommend preliminary plat approval to the Planning Commission. And once the Planning Commission acts on it, and assuming that they approve it, that will turn you loose to make all the necessary improvements. Once all that is done, you'll go through the final plat process, bring us all the as-bills, and we'll go before the Planning Commission and ask them to grant you final plat, and then put together the plat and get signatures.
Sounds good.
And go record it.
I am assuming, when we issued the permit for the car wash that's under construction, we were limited in the size of the water line that we could provide to that site. So they submitted, or they are preparing engineering plans, and their permit was issued based on, they were gonna use a well to provide the water for the actual car wash. The potable water that we provided serves the building, okay? I am assuming with the extension of the water line, they're gonna want to go on ahead
Add
and
another
tie.
service.
They're gonna wanna
Yeah.
add another service to tie the car wash operation into city water instead of
I
trying to
believe that
do it
what
by
we're
well.
looking at now is adding a 2-inch.
Yeah. I've got
Yeah.
I think it was a 2-inch they wanted there, so that would kind of,
Okay, so
serve
that was
that,
one of
so-
the things, I was gonna contact the contractor when I saw this come up as a subdivision and come back up, and that they were gonna actually extend that line in Walmart, or in that Walmart side, assuming that that's what they're gonna do, abandon the plan to do a well and going ahead and tie to the city to serve the
And
building.
I'll confirm that.
Please do, because that's, yeah, that was kind of, I'm still waiting on the design. They were supposed to be working on a fairly detailed engineering design on that pump, because that's got to be a big old pump to serve
gonna say,
to serve a car
Yeah.
wash. It was a big old pump. And they haven't gotten to that point yet, but if they're going to abandon that plan, please let me know, because that'll help
Oh, yeah.
us going forward.
That's a big deal.
And Eric, since we have Stephanie here, real quick, I unrolled the plan and profile. So of course, that's a 6-inch line feeding a fire hydrant here.
Right.
Of course, this is the existing access road, so Murphy Oil is here. So right now, they're showing a 1-inch service on the southernmost end.
Right.
And then another 2-inch service coming off the 6-inch line.
Yeah, the
which
two-
which was for the car wash.
Yeah, the 2-inch will serve the car wash, because we had a lot of conversations during permitting with the mechanical engineer
About what they really
what they
needed.
really needed, and that was
Yeah.
part of the issue, is we could provide them at the time with a 1-inch service, which was adequate for the building, but it wasn't enough to actually serve the operation, so.
Understood.
Okay.
And Eric also, and I'm assuming this would be for Murphy Oil and the medical office respectively, up on the north side of the access road, there's also a 3/4-inch service and a 1-inch service.
Those are actually both from Murphy's Oil. The clinic has its own connection off of another service.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
will-
Yeah,
we
so
won't be doing
basically, we're
anything.
reconnecting what Murphy's has right now. They have an irrigation service
Okay.
and a,
They have
and
a,
a po- and
they
a
have,
potable.
they have a potable water and an irrigation.
yes.
That will connect, and that will disconnect them from what they are now, or connect it to this new
And
line.
connect it to the new line.
Gotcha.
So everybody will be served off this new line, and that
Gotcha.
old line that runs through there, I think it's a 2-inch or whatever,
Right.
can
Yeah.
just be
Abandoned.
abandoned, basically.
And,
That's the plan.
and our utility superintendent, Mike Allison, he's nodding in agreement. So what you'll see in the condition of approval is the 3/4-inch and the 1-inch, the disconnect and reconnect to this. We're going to memorialize as a condition of approval to make sure that gets done by the contractor.
Absolutely.
And Mike, I'm not speaking out of turn to say if they disconnect and reconnect what Murphy already has, their taps have been paid, their connection fees have been paid. There's not going to be, aside from the cost of the plumber to make that disconnect and reconnect it, there's no additional cost to. Now, for this site, there will, if we're having two, then there will be, they've already paid a tap fee for a 1-inch. If they're connecting a 2, then there will be an additional tap fee that will be charged for the
But we'll get
2.
credit for the what they paid for the 1-inch
Well,
already, right?
here's the, are they going to
Well-
keep the building on the 1 and then the car wash on the 2?
That's something we'll.
That's the question. If they're
Yeah.
gonna disconnect the building and tie everything to the 2, I'll need to get something from their mechanical engineer that a 2-inch line will feed, single 2-inch line will feed everything. I know a 2-inch will feed just the car wash and the 1-inch will feed the building if that's the way they do it, based on what we've already talked to them about.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good. All right. Anything else we can help you with from the staff?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you both for coming.
Thank
You.
All right, y'all have a great day.
You
So
too.
we'll conclude our meeting, we'll finish off our meeting under old new business for the April 6th meeting. We'll have, and we've got them captured with an actual case number. So SD 20.17, there are going to be some various amendments and revisions to the subdivision regulations that we'll propose. And also want to make certain I clarify this and announce this. We're going to have a special work session at 4 p.m. prior to the regular meeting at 5 p.m. That special work session will be just for the purpose of discussing subdivision regulation amendments. So that way we can take time describing it with the Planning Commission and answer their questions and address it with them. They can address it with staff. Our desire and our intention, and we will advertise those, so that way if the Planning Commission is satisfied with the amendments, they can go ahead and adopt one or all or any combination. We'll leave that up to the Planning Commission. But just to briefly summarize, we've been talking about an agricultural subdivision as well as a rural subdivision, and something I'm going to bring up in that meeting also is the concept of a one-time split. We're doing some research and seeing that other city planning commissions have variations of that subdivision process. They do not have a family subdivision as contemplated by the county, but it appears that the agricultural subdivision, the rural subdivision, and the one-time split is being offered by other city planning commissions. We'll possibly have an amendment involving sidewalks. We get frequent requests, and we heard some today, for sidewalks in the planning jurisdictions that are a considerable distance from any existing sidewalks. A proposed amendment would allow an exemption for that if you're 1 road mile or greater distance from the nearest sidewalk. We're also going, and we won't try to describe it here, this is a very technical requirement, we're going to clarify the requirements for submitting ArcMap shape files at final plat and the various requirements that involves. It's not explicitly identified in the subdivision regulations how that should be done and the parameters for that. We are going to clarify that in the subdivision regulations, make it very explicit what is needed by staff at final plat. So with that, staff, any other comments or questions?
We will also be adding an amendment to the zoning ordinance,
Thank you, Emily, thank you.
and that would be to allow food processing in the M1 zoning district, subject to Board of Adjustment approval.
Yes, because right now, that use is completely blank in the M1 zoning district.
We allow it in M2, but we don't have any M2.
Right, there's no M2 zoning districts in the city right now. So that would go, instead of it blank, it would have a circle, but it would go to Board of
Yes.
Adjustment. That's right. Okay, well, with that, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Joe, thank you.